Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Educational AD Podcast. We'll be right back with today's guest, but we want to give a shout out to our two podcast partners, We Coach and the Global Community of Women in High School Sports. These are two great organizations that you really need to be a part of. That's the Global Community of Women in High School Sports and We Coach. And now let's hear a quick word from our sponsors. We want to say thanks to Sideline Interactive for their support of the podcast. Sideline Interactive's indoor scoring tables not only generate income for your department, but they also create the ultimate game day experience for your athletes. Go to sidelineinteractive.com or email them at sales@sidelineinteractive.com for more information. We want to thank Wall of Fame by Vital Signs. They've got a great collection of touchscreen consoles and a library of templates that can help you recognize the athletic achievements of your students. If you're looking for a great way to display your school record boards or your Hall of Fame, go to vitalsignswalloffame.com or email them at sales@vitalsignswalloffame.com to get started. We want to say thanks to Huddle. Go to huddle.com and see how your school can become a Huddle school. As a football coach, I used Huddle for years, but as an AD, we were a Huddle school, and our coaches just love the smart cameras, the mobile apps. Of course, they love the analytics, but there's so much more. Go to huddle.com and see how your school can become a Huddle school. We want to say thanks to Gipper. Go to gipper.com and see how athletic directors are creating world-class marketing content for their school's social media channels. Go to gipper.com and tell them you heard about it on the podcast and use the podcast code ADPOD10. That's ADPOD10 and get 10% off. Start creating custom content for your school's social media channels on gipper.com. We want to thank Athletic Surveys by LifeTrack. Athletic surveys are a quick, easy, and affordable way for you to collect comprehensive data that allows you to evaluate and improve your entire program. Athletic Surveys by LifeTrack also allows you to take the pulse of your parents and your student athletes and maybe find out about a small issue that you can address and keep it from turning into a big issue. Go to athleticsurveys.com or email them at info@athleticsurveys.com to get started. We want to say thanks to Hometown Ticketing, the leading digital ticketing provider to schools and colleges. Go to hometownticketing.com. They're going to show you how to set up and sell your tickets online. They'll show you how to scan the attendees and collect the revenue. And every step of the way, you'll have a dedicated client success manager that's providing hands-on support. That's every step of the way. Go to hometownticketing.com. They'll also show you how to set up and sell tickets for things like dances, plays, concerts, even graduation. That's hometownticketing.com. We also want to say thanks to Final Forms, the industry leader in registration. But there's so much more than that. Final Forms can help your stakeholders, they can help your coaches, and they can help you as an athletic director with things like eligibility, with rosters, and all the reports that come across your desk. Go to finalforms.com/Jake for more information. That's finalforms.com/Jake to get started with Final Forms. And we want to say thanks to Snap Mobile. Go to onsnap.com. That's onsnap.com and check out their platform, which is designed simply to help athletic directors. They've got several different aspects. Snap Raise is the fundraising platform. Our coaches have used it and raised thousands and thousands of dollars. Snap Spend is their money management platform. Snap Store allows you to order custom gear for fans, supporters, or teams. Snap Manage will actually build a custom website for your athletic department. And Snap Connect is their multilingual family engagement and communication platform that helps you support every family member in your community. To find out more, go to onsnap.com, that's onsnap.com, or reach out to your local Snap Mobile representative. That's onsnap.com.
All right.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Educational AD Podcast. We truly have an old friend on the show today. When I came to Florida, well over 20 years ago, the school I was at, one of our very first contests was with Miami Country Day School. And I had a chance to very briefly meet their AD, who I got to know much better over the next 14, 15 years. Our guest today is Chuck Sennett, and he's the longtime athletic director at Miami Country Day. Very active at our state level. He's been on a number of state association committees. He and I are actually on a panel that's going to be presenting at the Florida Council on Independent Schools later this week. But let's meet our guest, Chuck Sennett. Welcome to the podcast.
Jake, thanks so much for having me. I'm looking forward to getting reacquainted this week coming up at FCIS, along with Mike and some others that'll be sitting on the panel with us. But thanks for having me. I really appreciate it, and I'm honored to be here today.
Oh, well, absolutely. Again, I already kind of alluded to, our relationship goes way back, but it's been, gosh, a good, I think 6, 7, maybe even 8 years since we've seen each other. So just like you said, I'm glad for the chance to reconnect. Let's go and get started. We always like to let our listeners have a chance to get to know our guests. So give us that Chuck Sennett origin story, where you were born, where you grew up, went to school. Maybe take us up through the college years, and then we'll talk about your early career.
Well, I was born and raised in a small town outside Pittsburgh, about 17 miles outside, called Lower Burrell, Pennsylvania. I grew up playing baseball, basketball, and a little bit of football there as well. Participated in all three of those sports in high school. Baseball was my main sport, something that I really had a passion for and still do to this day. I was fortunate enough to, after graduating in 1985 from Burrell High School, I went on to play baseball at Barry University. That's kind of how I made my way to Miami. I grew up in a little steel town. My entire family it has worked in a steel mill in some capacity for most of their life, and I was ready for a different opportunity. So when I had an opportunity to play baseball at Barry, I jumped on it, came down here. They were a relatively new program in their second year, and had an opportunity to start there for 4 years. I played second base, made some of my best friends that I still have today from that university. I think Barry is one of those schools that goes overlooked at times. They don't realize what a great competitor they are at Division II. As a matter of fact, their boys soccer team just won conference, and they're getting ready to host a conference tournament. They have 28 or 29 national championships. So it's a great school. And then when I finished my career there, I wandered about less than a mile away to Miami Country Day School. I started out as a substitute teacher, started teaching math and coaching football. You and I coached a couple of years of football against each other. It was my passion coming in was football and baseball, and I was a football coach on and off here for 15 years. And then eventually worked my way up the system, taught math for 10 years. I was 7th grade team leader, which is an interdisciplinary leadership position for a few years. Went for the position of dean of students and was upper school dean of students for 3 years. And then unfortunately, our athletic director, Sandra Kennis, who I think you may have known at some point, Sandra had cancer and passed away while I was dean. So we opened up the search. Being an athletic director is always something I had a passion for. I was her associate AD for years, and the school did a national search, and I was lucky enough to be offered the position. So this is my 20th year. I love it as much today as I did 20 years ago. Every year is a new challenge, as you know. Every year is something challenging and fresh and fun. But I really do love this position as much now as I did when I started, and look forward to working with our kids who are special and our coaches every day.
Yeah, I appreciate you sharing that story. Our regular listeners hear me say this all the time. I just love listening to the journeys and the various steps that occur on each of our paths. You and I, again, we've known each other for a number of years. There was my time when I first moved to Florida, I was at Coral Springs Christian. I was the AD and the head football coach. And I think we played each other in football, definitely, but in a lot of sports on a regular basis. Then I moved down to, your neck of the woods, I think even further south, when I was at Palmer Trinity, just as the AD. And again, our schools were regularly competed against each other. And I always felt, whether it was you or I or our coaches that we were supervising, that it was a good, rivalry. It was competitive, but I think the coaches respected each other. The kids respected each other. What are your memories? Hopefully they're the same, but what are your memories of those days?
Absolutely the same. Every time we played Coral Springs Christian and then Palmer Trinity, I always felt like it brought the best out of our kids, our teams, your coaching staffs, and you as a coach were always well prepared, and I felt like at times we were too. We don't take anything for granted. Competition, every competition we go into, we really try to prepare for and try to do the best. Sportsmanship is the most important thing that we have here as a program. Of course, winning championships is great. We've won a few over the years, which is fantastic, but it's all about the kids doing things the right way. And, you and all the places that you've been, and we try to do the same thing here. It's about how you prep, but it's about how you manage yourself and how you really control your teams and the tempo and sportsmanship that is largely important to us. That's changed over time. There are a lot of schools at times that have lost sight with the sportsmanship piece, and it becomes a lot of win at all costs. And it's a challenge to always bring kids and coaches back to, why are we competing? We're competing because we want men and women to have great experience, to learn how to overcome obstacles, to be good when they win and to be good when they lose, and just to make sure that they compete the right way. And that's why I've stayed at Country Day for as long as this is my 32nd year being here. We have support from above that's our message, that it's not win at all costs, although winning is great. We want to make sure we do things the right way.
Yeah, and that's a great point. Having the support of, the upper administration, the board, the community on, this is how we roll. This is how we're going to present ourselves to the community. Very cool stuff. For our listeners, our guest today is Chuck Sennett. He's the longtime athletic director at Miami Country Day School, obviously in Miami, Florida. We're going to take our first break, but we'll be back with some more. This is the Educational AD Podcast. We want to say thanks to Hometown Ticketing for their support of the podcast. Hometown Ticketing is the leading digital ticketing provider to schools and colleges. And if you go to hometownticketing.com, they're going to show you how to set up and sell your tickets online. They'll show you how to scan the attendees that come to your games and collect your revenue. And every step of the way, you're going to have a dedicated client success manager that's providing hands-on support. Go to hometownticketing.com. They'll also show you how to sell tickets online for things like school dances, your school plays and concerts, even graduation. That's hometownticketing.com. Simple and easy online ticketing. We also want to say thanks to Sideline Interactive indoor scoring tables and video boards. We've got a Sideline Interactive indoor scoring table in our gym, and it's just fantastic. We use it for home games, but we also use it for pep rallies, for signing ceremonies. It's tremendously versatile, and their customer service is just fantastic. Go to sidelineinteractive.com and set up a live web demo to see their tables and boards in action. You can also email them at sales@sidelineinteractive.com and see exactly what their fantastic products can do for you. That's sales@sidelineinteractive.com. Welcome back, everyone, to the Educational AD Podcast. Our guest is Chuck Sennett. He's the athletic director at Miami Country Day School here in Florida. Chuck, we always like to ask our guests to share a little bit about the mentors that they've had in their life. None of us get to where we're at on our own. So who are some of the people that have helped you along the way?
I've been lucky. I've had so many great coaches over the years, whether it be youth sports or high school and college sports. But my the one thing I did competitively, we played a lot of Legion ball, which is a summer league program, and we traveled all over. We play 65 games a year and traveled to West Virginia, Pennsylvania, Ohio. I had two coaches. One was Bill Hess and Jim Ross. They were my head coach for Legion and my head coach for baseball, and they were just tremendous people that just really modeled excellence on and off the field. They demanded a lot. They didn't let anyone get away with not performing at their highest level, but just the way that they conducted themselves in the business world and themselves as a coach, and really guided me and many others through the process of being, a good person and a good human. And even beyond my playing years, he came down, both of them, and they watched me play in college, and they followed up. We had four of us that ended up coming to Miami to play out of our high school. Two played at Miami-Dade, and another buddy of mine played at Barry, and they would come down 2-3 times a year just to see us play. And to see them follow up with me as a person over time was huge. Sandra Kenna, our former athletic director, was another great mentor for me. She got me involved in the athletic program very early. I was a head baseball coach at 23 and a head football coach at 25, which doesn't happen very often. She supported me in everything that I tried to do, kept me in line when I needed to be kept in line, because we all do, stumble along the way. But she was just such a fantastic mentor. She had been that woman athletic director in the 80s and had gone through a lot of different obstacles that she had to really burst through. And she made sure that she guided me through a process that I was excited about being a part of. And others, my college baseball coach, Bruce Barkley, was someone that really believed in me and gave me an opportunity to start as a freshman and to build on that. I still stay in touch with Mike Cavone, who's the athletic director at Barry, and we speak frequently. And I think Mike's done an amazing job. And then finally, my head of school for many years and my middle school directors, John Davies, has been someone that has always been there through good and bad. He hired me as a substitute teacher and took a chance on someone who really had no math teaching background and made sure that he put me with the right people to be successful. And along the years was just there every step of the way until he retired 4 years ago as our head of school. So I've had so many of them, and I still do today. There are a lot of athletic directors, older, younger, in the state that I stay in touch with on a regular basis. We have our Palm League, which is 10 schools that we compete in every sport with, and all of those athletic directors are close friends of mine that I lean on from time to time when I have questions. It's the only way that we made it through the COVID times, were to pick each other's brains and to reach out when we didn't have an answer, and to try to collaborate and come up with procedures and protocols. And those friendships over the last 3 years are here. And then last but not least, a name that Ed Reagan is someone that was at Florida Christian for many years, finally ended up retiring this past year, but he has been kind of that, not only a mentor, but just a friend and someone that, especially early on when I was young and didn't have answers, I could call him and he really would help me get through the process. So there, as you know, being an athletic director, there are so many people that you need to collaborate with on a daily basis. Whether we remain friends over the years, we have great working relationships, and there are so many throughout the state that I really enjoy working with.
Yeah, again, I really appreciate you sharing all that. And the comment you made about, your middle school head, putting you in a position to be successful, that's exactly what coaches do with kids, is they try to, find out where that best fit is. Great stuff. Chuck, one of the things we try to do with the podcast is this idea of sharing best practices. So I'm going to put you on the spot here. What are some things that you do at Miami Country Day that you're particularly proud of? And I know there should be a ton, because I remember your programs. Maybe things that you do with coaches or kids, but what are some best practices that you can share with our listeners?
We have a lot. One thing we do through the hiring process is we obviously try to find someone who's well-rounded, who who fits the whole child philosophy and who really believes in our mission statement. And obviously anyone that we can get on campus full-time helps because they're a part of our community every day. But really starting with that process, we really try to spend as much time as we can with our coaches to support them and to make sure they're successful. But we really, as a staff, I have a great staff. I'm lucky that I have a middle school athletic director, an associate athletic director. We have 2 athletic trainers. We have 2 assistant athletic directors. We have an office manager. We have a strength and conditioning coach. So we have a good staff that really allows coaches to be coaches. We set up for all the events. We take care of all the filming. We take care of paying officials. We try to do as much as we can from an administrative standpoint, so our coaches can really focus on coaching the young men and women that they're with. We're big on not interrupting practices. Practice is time for these teams to get ready and to do what they need to do. But we really try to spend time outside of that, making sure all of our coaches have the tools necessary to be successful. And with some of that, it's just taking things off their plate and making sure that we control them so they don't have to worry about it. Another thing that we changed about 10 years ago, we have a director that sees each program from grade 6 to grade 12. And I think it's important for all head coaches to have input, have say on hiring, on how programs are being put together from a middle school standpoint. And so all of our coaches, whether it's soccer, basketball, baseball, etc., they have control of our programs grades 6 through 12. Some coach both teams, some just mentor and oversee it and help get to know the kids and the families as they come up. But we do have a director of each program that's responsible for really overseeing, along with my staff, the day-to-day operations of each. And it's something that we've been successful with. Another thing that we've tried to do that I'm proud of is we pay our coaches hourly. Many schools over time pay stipends. We pay coaches hourly. They get paid X amount of money. They punch in. But what that does is it creates an opportunity for coaches who really put the time in to make more money. Who, if they're putting the time in to watch film and scout and be there with their kids and really are trying to build a program and they're putting that additional time in, we made sure they're compensated for it. And it's something that we've done now for 7 years. It's been successful. We don't have issues with our coaches not being able to make practice. They're here every day. And we have big staffs. We have 4 coaches on a middle school soccer team. We have 5 coaches on a high school team. We want to make sure that even those kids who aren't getting playing time right away are getting developed in practice so that they are ready to be successful when called upon, because you know as well as I do, injuries happen. Kids get sick, especially during COVID. And that young man or woman who's in this behind the scenes, who might be a third stringer at some point, is going to end up being your starter. And we need to make sure that we prepare them in practice so when it's their time, they're ready. So we have a great facility. It's something that we look at trying to get more of because we do have a lot of teams, but we make sure that we spend time in our practices developing kids to the best of their ability.
Well, we're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, I want to follow up with a couple of things you said. Really, some interesting, things that you shared. Very cool. For our listeners, our guest is Chuck Sennett. He's the athletic director at Miami Country Day School here in Florida. We're going to take another break, but we'll be back. This is the Educational AD Podcast. We want to thank the good folks at Snap Raise for their support of the podcast. Go to onsnap.com, onsnap.com, to check out their entire platform. They've got a lot of different services, and they're all designed to help athletic directors do their job better and even more easily. Snap Raise is their fundraising platform. We use Snap Raise at our school, and it was just fantastic. Our coaches, raised thousands and thousands of dollars using Snap Raise. Snap Spend is their secure money management platform. Snap Store allows you to order spirit gear or team gear for all the people in your program. Snap Connect, is their secure multilingual family engagement and communication platform. And Snap Manage is their website construction arm. They'll create an entire website for your athletic department. You can find it all at onsnap.com or reach out to your local Snap mobile representative to get the support you need. That's Snap Raise. Check them out today. We also want to say thanks to Vital Signs Wall of Fame. You know, they're on a mission to bring your school's legacy to life. If you're looking for a really cool way to display your school's record boards or your school's Hall of Fame, go to vitalsignswalloffame.com and take a look at their touchscreen video consoles and their library of templates. It'll help you recognize the athletic achievements of your students, both past and present, while also showcasing your school's diverse history and your proudest moments. That's vitalsignswalloffame.com or email them at sales@vitalsignswalloffame.com to get started. Welcome back, everyone, to the Educational AD Podcast. Chuck, prior to the break, you were talking about you guys do, I'm going to say, a fairly unique way of compensating your coaches. You said maybe 7 years ago you moved away from doing stipends to hourly compensation. The coaches literally, punch a time clock. How has that worked out for you? I guess financially, I'm curious. Are you paying out more? Are you paying out less? Has the quality of the coaching gone up? How is that? Why are you still doing it and nobody else is? How's that?
Well, it was a budget hit at the beginning. We used to have, and we don't have it anymore, but we had an athletic steering committee that was comprised of 7 board members, coaches, and citizens at large. And they were basically an oversight committee that were challenged with helping our athletic department move forward in any way we needed to. If we needed a new gym, they would help, get board support and help fundraise. If we needed, a new pool, they were instrumental in 2000 of helping us build our new pool, of putting lights in, of getting AstroTurf field, etc. So once we build our facilities, the next thing they basically spoke to me about is, what do we need now? And at that point, it's always compensation. You always want to be, especially as an independent school, you want to be attractive to new coaches coming in, whether they're teachers or whether they're outside people. We want the best of the best to be able to come here. And in my first 13 years, there were some issues with stipended coaches. You have some coaches on staff that may be there 3 days a week, and some that may be there 6 days a week, and they're getting paid the same. If you get a $4,000 stipend because you were gone for 40% of the time, they're not giving that money back. So we really looked at that. We talked about a bonus system. Do we give coaches bonuses if they win, if they advance in the playoffs, if they make it to a state championship, if they travel to tournaments? And we came up with this hourly rate that really does all of it. It provides incentives for people to be at practice every day. Not that our coaches needed it, but they know now that if they're not going to make practice, that they are going to lose some wages. It provided a system to where, as they were successful and advanced, the bonuses were there, because now you're getting paid a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks more than they would have just getting a stipend, so that they're getting more for the longer they're coaching. For tournaments and trips and overnight trips, they're getting paid for travel. The minute you walk on a bus, you're getting paid till the minute you get off a bus, or if you're on a trip, the minute you get the kids in bed and taped in their doors, or whatever the process is. So there is incentive to travel, to be successful. As you've mentioned and I've mentioned, hopefully that's something that's there for all of our coaches intrinsically. They want to be successful, but it's a little more incentive for them to make a little more money. And we have the ability to attract new coaches. When we give them an hourly rate and we tell them approximately what they're going to make per year, it raises eyebrows, and it keeps good coaches around, because they know that's money that they're used to getting that they may not be able to get elsewhere. So it's worked well for us. Our athletic steering committee was really, and our board, behind trying it. And I don't know of another school. We've shared this with a lot of others. I don't know of another school that's currently doing it.
Yeah, neither am I. I'm not familiar with that, but everything you mentioned makes sense. I'm guessing that's probably why more schools don't do it. It makes too much sense. But very cool stuff. That is definitely an FIAAA state conference workshop that's waiting to be presented, or I dare say, one at the national conference. So if your phone rings, in the next couple of weeks, it'll probably be because I recommended that to somebody. Let's go and move on to one of our talking points. This is one I heard on another podcast, and I thought it was just the greatest question in the world and was kicking myself for not adding it to our repertoire. So you're actually the first guest that we've asked this. What are some things that you mentioned? You've been at Country Day now for 32 years. What are some things that you have learned from your student athletes or even from your coaches in that time that, whether it's an aha moment or a lifelong lesson, what are a couple things that really stick out for you in your career as the athletic director at Country Day?
The great thing about this job is and just being around kids and parents and other coaches is if you're not picking up and learning new things every day, then you're stagnant. And it's always been important for me to try new things, and we do a variety of things, from a buddy program, a writing program from our varsity kids down to third grade, for them to be able to connect and write letters back and forth and invite them to games. And we've tried a variety of new things every year. And I think the thing I've always learned is humility, that we try things and we're successful with it, and we try things and we're not. And we've been innovative when it comes to hourly pay. We've tried to be innovative when it comes to having a director overseeing a program from grade 6 to grade through 12. We've tried a variety of different things, and frankly, some of them have worked really well, and some of them have not worked very well. What have I learned? We have our basketball coach, our girls basketball coach. Our first 75 years of existence, we had never won a state championship. And to be consistent and to be able to put ourselves in a position where we've won 8 state championships in 10 years with girls basketball. Our coach does the right thing every single day. And the message that he sends to his kids is when you get up, you put your shoes on a certain way, you eat breakfast a certain way. It's a level of excellence that he demands throughout his program from the minute the kids wake up till the minute they go to bed. And that has brushed off into so many other of our programs that it's a new day and it's a new adventure and a new way of doing things. But I've learned so many things from our kids over the years, probably more so when they come back as alumni. We try to do a lot of alumni events. I've done an alumni baseball game every year now for the last 23. I've been lucky enough to coach baseball here for 32 years, and I know a lot of the kids that have come through the program. But last year we had 45 kids come back and play. To see them come back with their families and appreciate the school and see their coaches and their former head of school. And to me, that's what it's all about. It's about not only the memories of them growing up and being in high school, but it's being able to really spend time with our alumni that we've coached and impacted and learn from them and hear the stories that were great and horrible as they came through and just the whole full circle realm of working with that is just something that I appreciate every day and I don't take for granted.
Now, have you had, or I guess I should probably say, how many kids have you coached that you also coach the parents?
So I currently have 3 on our baseball team. We've had probably 50 or 60 come through that I've either coached their parents or maybe an uncle. We currently have 3 on our baseball team that I have. One of the young men's dad was my catcher on the 92 baseball team. One of our seniors, I've coached 2 of his uncles. So it's interesting. I've also been lucky enough to coach. My brother-in-law is 34 years old. I coached him when he came here and graduated in 06. I coached my oldest son in baseball, Griffin. I've coached my youngest son, Tanner. I've had the opportunity to coach my own kids, and some people have bad experience with that. It's been so memorable for me to be able to, as a coach, have those moments. I'm coach on the field and dad at home, and that's something we've always tried to stay with. So, I've again, whether it's an unrelative or seeing our alumni come back, I've just had so many great experiences.
Wow. Very special stuff. Chuck, I should have done this in the previous segment, but I'm going to do it now. If one of our listeners wanted to reach out, pick your brain a little bit more, whether it's about the hourly system or any other of the programs you have at Country Day, what's the best way that they can get a hold of you?
I think the best way to start is by email. I check my stuff regularly, but I would say by email. My email is Sennett, my last name, SENNETTC at miamicountryday.org. Reach out anytime by email, and if we need to further the conversation, I'll give you a call and answer any questions that there may be.
Okay. And we'll do that again at the end of the podcast. But our guest today is Chuck Sennett from Miami Country Day. We're going to take another quick break, but we'll be back. This is the Educational AD Podcast. We want to say thank you to Gipper. Go to Gipper.com and see how athletic directors and coaches are creating world-class marketing content for their school social media channels. You can do it in seconds on any device, and you don't need any design experience. Go to Gipper.com. Tell them you heard about it on the podcast and use the podcast code ADPOD10. That's ADPOD10 and get 10% off. Gipper.com will help you create custom branded content for your school's social media channels. That's Gipper.com. We also want to thank Huddle. Go to Huddle.com. Huddle is how the world sees sports. Join over 200,000 teams who use Huddle to help their athletes play better. As a football coach, I used Huddle for years. And as an athletic director, our school was a Huddle school. And our coaches just loved the mobile apps, the smart cameras. Of course, they love the analytics, but there's so much more. Go to Huddle.com and you're going to find the tools to help your teams and your athletes improve, along with a complete solution for the challenges you face as an athletic director. At Huddle, we believe in sports and teams believe in Huddle. Go to Huddle.com and join the 6 million users and turn your school into a Huddle school. That's Huddle.com. Welcome back, everyone, to the Educational AD Podcast. Chuck, you and I were talking during the break, and you created something, several somethings down in your area that, again, it's something that I've shared with athletic directors for years. But share with our listeners what you've done in the way of helping. Well, I'm not going to step on your toes. Share what you and I were just talking about.
I think one of the things I'm most proud about is the collaboration over the years with other athletic directors to put together different conferences for different reasons. We're a part of the South Florida Baseball Conference, and our baseball team is competitive, but we're not a state competitor. We're not going to win a state championship anytime soon. So we've gotten a bunch of light schools together to host a conference tournament. We play each team twice. We have a conference tournament at the end. We have a champion. We have first, second, third team all conference players. We have scholar athletes. So it's a way to recognize our student athletes in a positive way. It's a way for us to provide competitive to be equitable when it comes to a competitive standpoint. And it really, at the end of the day, because some teams are younger, get older, and they're more competitive, and some are not, it changes. Our champion seems to change every year, and it works. We do the same thing for softball. It's competitive. We also about 15 years ago started a South Florida middle school conference for all of our sports. And one of the reasons that we did it for middle school is that we felt like middle school always just ended. There's no championship. There's no tournament at the end. That there was really nothing that if you won your last game, you could celebrate. And so we have a 10-school South Florida middle school conference in Miami-Dade County. It's very competitive. We have different schools win different championships throughout the year, so it's pretty equitable throughout. But it's good. At the end of each season, we have a tournament. We're required to play each team at least once throughout the season, and then we have a tournament where we declare a champion and we celebrate all conference teams with that. So it really gives a little more purpose to our middle school teams as their season ends. And then 4 years ago, we, along with we had 7 initial schools that began the Palm League, and now we have 10. We've created a Palm League in Broward, Miami-Dade, and West Palm of 10 schools, very good independent schools who have excellent athletic programs. And we do the same thing. We have a North and a South division. We compete with each person in our division once. We have 2 crossover games, and then we have a championship at the end of the season. And it's just great to see our kids compete on all levels. And it's great to collaborate with some of the most fantastic athletic directors there are in the state, to be able to see what they do each day, to be able to share issues, problems, solutions. We know that at any time, any one of us can go to any of those other 10 ADs immediately and get help if needed. And it's just over time. It's not overworked with competitive equity, but it's worked with collaboration and friendships with other schools. When Ransom Everglades comes to Country Day, they know they're going to be treated with respect. They know that there's not going to be any issues with how we run our athletic department or how they're welcome on our campus. And we know that when we go to these schools in the conference, depending on which conference it is, it's the same. We just have that professional relationship with those schools that we know everything's going to be fine. And it's worked. I'm surprised more schools don't try to find that conference to be able to compete in, but it's something I'm really most proud about and most proud to work with these schools.
No, and again, I can speak from firsthand knowledge when I was at Palmer Trinity, how effective, how positive those. It wouldn't be a podcast if we didn't have that. Those middle school competitions, the regular season, the tournaments were. Our kids loved them, our parents loved them, our coaches loved them. And we've done the same thing at the high school level, is try to create those conferences to make equitable competition. You might get assigned to a state association district where you're really not that competitive, as you said, but by joining a conference and scheduling people that are like-minded, you can have some competitive games. And as you said, at the end of the season, recognize your kids, have an all-conference team, have a coach of the year, have a sportsmanship school of the year. Great, great stuff. We're going to do it a second time now, and then we're going to do it a third time, just in case somebody wasn't listening. Chuck, if somebody wants to get in touch and pick your brain about this or some of your other great ideas, what's the best way they can get a hold of you?
By my email. And my email is Sennett, my last name, SENNETTC, @miamicountryday.org.
This episode has been our best practices, just great stuff. We need an extended episode. We're going to be back with some more, but we got to take another break and recognize the sponsor. This is the Educational AD Podcast. We want to say thank you to Final Forms. Final Forms is the industry leader in forms and registration, but they are so much more than that. Final Forms can help your stakeholders with things like mobile accessibility, and they've got reminders for parents about policies, about physicals, and all the forms that come when you have an athlete in the house. Final Forms can also help your coaches with things like attendance and communication. And for athletic directors, Final Forms can help you with eligibility, with rosters, and all the reports that come across your desk. It's time that you talk to a team that's walked in your shoes. To take the next steps, go to finalforms.com/Jake. That's finalforms.com/Jake to get started with Final Forms. Welcome back, everyone. We've been visiting with Chuck Sennett, the athletic director at Miami Country Day. He's been there 32 years. We coached against each other. Our teams competed against each other, and it's great to be reconnecting after a few years away. Chuck, one of our long-standing questions revolves around this idea of toughness, and it's kind of my question. 100 years ago, when I was in high school, our coaches would say things like, come on, guys, you got to be tough, or come on, Jake, you got to suck it up. And I think we kind of knew what they meant, and we did it. Since then, we have figured out much better ways to communicate with our student athletes, but I still feel that toughness is an important aspect of sports and of life. So here's my question. How can we help kids to develop toughness while also being aware of the very real challenges that a Generation Z kid is experiencing today that I never had to go through? Do you have any advice for us?
It's funny. It's we battle that question, and we also battle the opposite. You know, and what I mean by the opposite is we have so many single sport athletes that play sports 12 months out of the year, and they're beating their bodies up. And a lot of people are asking them, go out, be tough. And we're actually scaling back a little bit and saying, make sure you understand your body, make sure you're not pushing your body beyond limits of what they need to be pushed. And I guess either way you look at it, whether it's scaling back on physical toughness or asking people to be more mentally tough, it's knowing yourself and knowing your body. It's understanding that you can push yourself to a certain limit and beyond at times, but make sure that you're working with our strength coach, our two athletic trainers, our coaching staff, that you know your body well enough that you're not beating it up to a point where you're being injured. It's understanding the difference between an injury and being hurt. It's understanding how to play through a non-injury situation when you are hurt and your body's beat up, and you can continue on and be mentally tough. But it's being a good teammate. It's knowing that I've got to give it my all for the person next to me, but at the same time, I have to know my body. And when I am injured, and I do have professionals that are working with us, that if it's in the best interest of myself and my team for me to maybe stay out, that's something we do too. And the only reason I bring that up, Jake, is so many times now in sports, I'm seeing kids be damaged goods. I'm seeing them overextend their bodies and overextend themselves. And they think they're being tough, and they're not using their education and the people that are professionals to be able to make sure they're taking care of themselves. So there's that fine line of be tough and be competitive. And then there's that critical point of let's make sure that we're doing what's responsible for our bodies.
Yeah, you bring up a ton of great points. The expression that you used, the difference between, and I don't think you said it this way, but these are my words, the difference between being hurt and being injured. I remember vividly, as a football coach at Coral Springs Christian, having that conversation, well, are you hurt or are you injured? Well, what's the difference? Okay, well, if you're injured, you need to come out and we're going to take a look at you. But if you're hurt, hey, everybody hurt, everybody, has sore muscles or whatever it was, which was not, the best thing I could have said to a student athlete. Professionals, the people like us and our coaches that are on the front lines, we've got to make sure that we're protecting our kids and making sure that their high school sports experience or their middle school sports experience is just the very best possible.
And that's why I think it's so important for us, and a lot of programs have them, but for us to have our strength coach and our two athletic trainers work hand in hand with our staff, lead stretches, help with rehab, really get to know the kids. Back when I started coaching, we didn't have an athletic trainer 32 years ago. So I had to be that person that would say, hey, suck it up and get out there, or no, you're injured. Now, someone complains of something that's out of the ordinary, I can send them to our staff to be evaluated, and they can be the ones that say, nope, get back out there and compete, or hey, let's take it easy. Let's do some remedies here to get you back healthy so that this isn't a lingering issue. And I just think, sports has evolved into a profession now, much more than it had been on a high school or club level 32 years ago. And we need to be careful. We need to make sure that we take care of our student athletes. There are things that we just have to be responsible from a medical standpoint. And I can't be happier that we have 3 people on our team that actively take care of that.
Yeah, having that trainer on staff is key. It's no longer a luxury. I mean, if you don't have a trainer, it's not if something's going to go wrong, it's when something's going to go wrong. So great lesson. Chuck, this has just been so cool to spend some time with you. It's kind of been like a time machine going back to those days that we addressed, but we're not done yet. We always like to wrap up with the athletic director's toolbox. Now, you certainly know your way around the world of athletics, but we're going to take a quick break, our last break, and give a shout out to Athletic Surveys, who sponsored this segment. But when we come back, we're going to ask Chuck Sennett to send out a brand new athletic director on their very first job, but we're only going to let him put 3 things in their toolbox. So let's take that break. And when we come back, we're going to find out what Chuck Sennett is going to put into his new athletic director toolbox. Please stay with us. We want to say thanks to Athletic Surveys for sponsoring the athletic director toolbox segment of our podcast. Athletic surveys are a quick, easy, and affordable way for you to collect comprehensive data that allows you to evaluate and improve your entire athletic program. At the schools I've worked at, we use surveys for just about everything, for teachers, for coaches, for kids, and for parents. And the information that would come back was almost always positive. But the surveys also allowed that squeaky wheel parent to vent sometimes. And sometimes they'd share a small issue that you could end up addressing and keep it from turning into a big issue because you didn't know about it because you hadn't done a survey. Go to athleticsurveys.com or email them at info@athleticsurveys.com to get started. If you've never used a survey to take the pulse of your parents or your student athletes, you're really missing out. Talk to the folks at Athletic Surveys by LifeTrack and let them help you take your athletic program from good to great. Well, it's that time of the podcast. We've been visiting with Chuck Sennett, a longtime AD at Miami Country Day School here in Florida. Chuck, you're getting ready to send out a brand new athletic director. What 3 tools, I'm only going to let you have 3, are you going to put into their athletic director toolbox?
All right. So the first, it's not a tool, but the first instrument I would give them is a whistle. And it's funny because we talk in our administrative meetings, the symbol of a whistle, and people think a whistle is just to motivate, get moving. But when you blow a whistle, a variety of things happens. It's a start, it's a stop, it's a continuation, it's a pause. And I think as being an athletic director, you need something to trigger all of that. As an AD, there are times I need to get motivated and move. There are times I need to pause. There are times I need to stop. There are times I need to listen. And that whistle, as a coach, depending on how you blow it, has different meanings at different times. So I would start with a whistle. I would add an eraser, because just when you think you have that perfect plan, it might fall apart and you need to start over. And I've done it from year 1 to year 20 as an athletic director, that you vet and put time into doing something, and then you realize, it didn't work out quite the way we wanted to. And instead of throwing the paper away, you erase some parts of it and you just try to figure out and make it work at the end. And then I would say the last thing you have to have is a cell phone, not only from the communication standpoint, but in today's social media era of some of the social media outputs, I don't even know. I think it's important for athletic directors to be connected and understand Instagram and Snapchat and the variety of different things that are out there, and be able to connect with kids and connect with people that are going to be able to follow the program, be a part of the program, or eventually be a part of the community at some point. So my 3 would be a whistle, an eraser, and a cell phone.
We've had, this is actually, I think, interview number 361. I'll have to go double check, but I think we've had one other person, they're actually an official and a coach, that talked about a whistle in much the same way you did. So that's a pretty unique one. Cell phone and communication, certainly, one of our more popular ones. We have never had anyone mention the eraser. So we've got another original tool, but the way you describe its use, I think, is just so important. Thanks so much for sharing. And our regular listeners know all of those tools that Chuck just shared, they're going to be going into the 3rd edition of the Athletic Director's Toolbox, which will be coming out probably in the summer of 2023. Chuck, so great to spend some time, and I'm excited that we're going to be spending more time this coming week at the FCIS conference. We've done it twice. I think this is another first for us. We're going to give out your contact information a third time. One of our listeners wants to pick your brain, and listeners, I think you've got a great resource here. What's the best way they can get in touch with you?
Get a hold of me by email. My email is Sennett, SENNETTC at miamicountryday.org.
Okay. Chuck Sennett, thanks so much for sharing with us today. All the best to you and the teams moving forward. And again, looking forward to seeing you later this week.
Thanks, Jake. I appreciate it.
For our listeners, you know that the Zoom recordings of all of our interviews get uploaded to the Educational AD Podcast YouTube channel. We appreciate you listening today. Come back just about every day for new content on the Educational AD Podcast. We'll see you next time.